Welcome to Your Strata Property, the podcast for property owners looking for reliable, accurate, and bite-sized information from an experienced and authoritative source.
Hello and welcome. I'm Amanda Farmer and I have with me today, in real life, in person, on the couch, right next to me, Reena van Aalst from Strata Central. Hey, Reena.
It's so lovely to be with you, Amanda, on the couch.
Yes, we are back together in person. We loved our in-person chat so much last time. We booked a whole conference around an in-person podcast.
Yes.
Not quite. No, we didn't. We are here together on the Gold Coast, getting ready to attend Dr. Nicole Johnston's Strata Impact Conference 2025. We thought we'd squeeze in a podcast recording before everything kicks off tomorrow, and we are in the gorgeous Langham Hotel where it's all happening. Beautiful afternoon and time to talk strata.
Trying to join the scenery at the same time too, Amanda.
Yes, we are making some videos, so if you do want to check out Reena and I on the couch looking at the view here on the beautiful east coast of Australia, jump on socials and check out those vids. But for now, our wins and challenges in strata. Let's start with your challenge this week. Reena van Aalst, hit me with it.
Yeah, well, this actually happened at a meeting that one of my colleagues and I were attending. This strata scheme has to replace the roof membrane. There's been some leaks that have been occurring in some of the top floor apartments. And as we're aware now with the Design and Building Practitioners Act, a design has to be undertaken by a registered practitioner. It has to be put onto the portal. And the project manager got an engineer to prepare all this. We approved the fee proposal. They're just about to lodge the plans on the portal, and last time we had a strata committee meeting, one of the members who is not really happy with rules and regulations and has said that obviously this DBPA Act has gone too far, basically said that the quotes now that we've received are nearly triple what had been originally provided.
I bet.
Now, the other strata committee members were concerned that if the Owners Corporation proceeded down this path where they are aware that it's actually not legal to have a person who's not registered just do the work. Now, the quotes that we'd received were obviously from some top-tier builders, which I think were probably a bit over the top, but nevertheless, the price would be at least double. So this committee member said, I have a contractor who's done work in the next-door building, which we also manage, so I'm aware of the contractor. He doesn't have the design and building practitioner's qualification, and he said that he can do it for half the price, but he can still give a warranty. So the members spent quite a lot of time deliberating over this aspect of it. And our advice was looking at the legislation just at the meeting on the run was that if an owners corporation does something in contravention of the Act, then it's actually, I can't remember what the word was now, but there was something to the effect that someone can be prosecuted, members of the committee can be prosecuted. They referred to the word body corporate as opposed to owners corporation. So the question, Amanda, is really, is that warranty worth the paper that it's written on? And what are the repercussions? The committee don't want to take that responsibility. Let's take it to a general meeting, they said. Let the owners decide whether or not they should be following the DBPA Act. And I'm thinking, well, I don't really know if that's also a feasible suggestion, but it was just fortuitous that I was going to meet with you today and I thought I would raise this matter. Have you...
Yeah.
I didn't think that anyone could be protected by knowingly asking the owners, can you please not comply with the Act? But I just thought it'd be good if we could get your thoughts on it.
Well, look, here's my understanding. The Design and Building Practitioners Act requires building work to be done in a certain way by certain qualified people to have certain certificates issued in order to comply with the law. That law being the Design and Building Practitioners Act. It is a law. It's kind of hurting my head thinking about how does this committee think that they can just breach the law?
No, the committee doesn't want to do it, but it's one particular member who's saying, well, it's, half the price, we'll get a warranty, and can we call it maintenance? Even though they're spending like nearly $200,000, but anyway, I'm not sure
it's
that's
not so much about what you want to call the work.
Yeah.
It's about whether the work fits into the category of work, building work as it's defined under the Design and Building Practitioners Act. And as we've talked about on the podcast before, I've chatted to Helen Cowell about this, who in my books is the gun on this legislation. There's a definition of building work in the Act. If it requires development consent, if it's work that's affecting waterproofing in more than one dwelling, then it's going to be work, in my understanding, work that needs to be done pursuant to the Act.
Yes.
So talking about warranties, I wonder if you're talking about homeowner's warranty. So the builder being able to say, look, I can get homeowner's warranty, so you're covered under the Home Building Act for
And I think
defects.
he was talking more about, more I can give you a warranty, which whatever that warranty means.
I don't know what that is.
I think he was meaning in a consumer law type regime, but I'm not really sure if someone who doesn't have a qualification can even give a warranty, even though their work may be using this high-level product that's the top-end product for waterproofing and whatever. But
well, then isn't that a separate issue if he can't give you homeowners warranty insurance? He needs to be able to do that, right?
He can give that, I think, but that's separate. But it's more about, why should we pay a design practitioner when we will still get a warranty, whatever that warranty means? I think he means like, the consumer warranty that people get when work is done, not the home building compensation fund, which only kicks in if someone goes broke, but it's more about the warranty for the work.
A statutory warranty under the Home Building Act. Because you'll have the contract.
Yeah. One of the considerations I was thinking about, Amanda, was if there's like storm damage and then water comes through, but we would have to disclose when you're doing works of this quantum to the insurance company, and I'm sure that they would think, well, hang on. I mean, they'd normally ask you for copies of reports and things that you've done, so I don't even think that would necessarily fly if there was any water leaks as a result of work that was done further to this type of thing.
And not only the building insurer having a problem with this, again, I keep going back to the homeowner's warranty insurance because that's something that this contractor would understand that they need to have. That might not even respond where the work hasn't been done in accordance with the DBPA. And as for going to owners and saying, well, let's put it to a general meeting, and if all the owners say they want to do it because it's cheaper, then we're okay. No, the committee and that committee member in particular is not okay because I imagine they've received advice from you in your capacity as a strata manager saying this is work that falls within this category. We need to have design practitioner. They are ignoring that advice. They have a duty to act in the best interests of the owners. They have a duty to act in good faith. They are not acting in good faith if they then go to the owners in meeting and say this is legally possible when you've told them it's not. And you might even tell them, thinking about making sure that you're covered, tell them to go and get legal advice on this point. So this question you're asking me today, Amanda, can we do it? My answer is no, I don't think you can do it.
I don't think so either.
But to have an actual legal advice on that point
would be the best thing.
And if they don't want to spend money on that legal advice, at least you've told them.
Yes.
And there's a record of you telling them.
Yes.
Let us know how that one pans out, Reena. But I know there are other managers out there who are struggling with this because, yes, the costs are 3-4 times as much. I've been through it in one of my own buildings, waterproof membrane, exactly the situation, $2 million. $2 million job. Yes, a few balconies were done as well. But having to explain to owners that it is because of this legislation that we have to jump through these hoops. We need these engineers who are appropriately qualified, and it makes it having to do the drawings that they have to do, having to get it all registered, it does make it more expensive.
I think what I tried to explain to them also last night is that we've got buildings that have spent a lot of money 5-6 years ago that are now having to redo the same balconies again because at that time there wasn't this legislation that gave protection. So now the onus is now on personal accountability of these practitioners, which wasn't the case previously, and therefore there is some more certainty. And I said this all came out of, all these buildings with Ascot Towers and all these other things and most of the buildings that we know when they have defects relate to waterproofing and water ingress. So we can see the intent. Perhaps the extension to just normal apartment work has now become onerous and expensive. But I think long term, we've spent a lot of money in many buildings and we're having to spend it all over again.
Yeah, good point. Good point. And thank you for saying that. That's true. That's been my experience in the building that I'm thinking of. These are balconies that were done 4 or 5 years ago and they are having to be done again.
Exactly.
And hopefully now we'll be right for a while. Fingers crossed. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
Well, thank you for bringing that challenge to the pod. My challenge for this week comes from a strata manager member inside our community who has asked me this question. It's not the first time I've asked, and I said, well, great timing. I'm recording a podcast with Reena very shortly, and I'm going to put her on the spot and ask her how she handles this one. It is about the auditing of trust accounts. Now, I have heard this before. It's not the first time I've been asked the question. I think I know the answer, but I'm interested in what you think. The Property Stock and Agents Act requires real estate professionals who operate a trust account, and that is a trust account as defined under the Property Stock and Agents Act, to have that trust account audited each year and to report the results of that audit to New South Wales Fair Trading. Now, strata managers manage a lot of trust accounts because you operate trust accounts for each of your clients. Is that a trust account within the meaning of the Property Stock and Agents Act? And do you have to, in addition to your buildings that have a Strata Schemes Management Act requirement to do an audit, do you as a strata manager also have to do an audit and report those results separately to Fair Trading?
We do actually, man, and that's due each year, 30 September, and that's normally done by an auditor. So we have a separate auditor that will go through every single one of our trust accounts. So what we do, we prepare a spreadsheet of our balances as at the end of 30th of June, and then we also have all the bank statements of every single building, and we have to report any times when our trust account's been overdrawn for any reason, which obviously should never happen unless there's a loan and there's not enough money in the account. But I think now a lot of our banks are aware of this requirement and they stop that occurring. We also get reports every week from Strata Cash telling us what buildings are in the red, and they actually highlight them in red so that we can see where their expenses are greater than their cash at bank in terms of their... So we know that which buildings are low on funds, which is a good thing that we have with Strata Cash and the Strata Max providers that we use, it's a great tool for us as managers. But each year we have to lodge that. So any term deposits that we have as at 30 June have to also be included in that list. And that's normally lodged by our auditor. He will lodge the audit with Fair Trading and sign off that they've audited our trust account and that whether or not there's any breaches or not.
And is this something that you've received direct advice or guidance from Fair Trading or maybe from SCA or somebody saying that you have to do this? Because I have to say, on my reading of the legislation, I'm not sure that you are operating the kind of trust account that the legislation is talking about, because it's not a trust account that's in your name as the company, as the agency operating the trust account. Your trust accounts are in the name of your clients, right?
Yeah,
and you operate
right.
it as trustee.
Yeah, it's Strata Central as trustee for SP, whatever. Yeah, so the thing is, as far as we're aware, and Fair Trading have emailed that we do have to lodge this report, and I think it's a good thing, even if it's not required, but because I think that strata managers would hold a lot more money than real estate agents ever would. Because if you think about, they would hold money for deposits when there's a sale, but that's very transient. Whereas we're holding millions of dollars all the time. If you collectively add the amount of money that we've got in trust.
But this is the thing. Are you holding it or is the owner's corporation holding it? And then there's a separate obligation for an owner's corporation to have their trust account audited if it's over a certain amount.
Yeah, so that's a separate requirement. But I think that this is an audit as at 30 June. So whereas, as you know, financial year ends of buildings, Amanda, will differ across the scheme based on the date they were registered. Whereas this requirement is as at 30 June, how much money do you have in your trust account for each of the strata schemes, BMCs, any entity that you manage. I think we even include a company title schemes because it's everything that we're managing, not just strata schemes. And we also then the auditor will say if there's any breaches or not in terms of the trust account, and that is reported to Fair Trading. So as far as I'm aware, and I haven't really looked into it as deeply as you're asking me, because I think I've always assumed it was a requirement, otherwise you wouldn't have to do it.
Yeah, interesting. So some managers were telling me, yes, they were doing it. Some said they'd missed the last couple of years because they'd heard somewhere they didn't have to do it, and Fair Trading they'd never heard from Fair Trading about it. So I said, well, you might now, because I think Fair Trading's on the warpath a bit with our strata managers checking up on things. And then I went and had a look at the legislation and I thought, I'm not sure that you have to do it. So good to have your view and to hear that you're doing it. I would love to hear from other strata managers out there, whether you've thought about this, whether you do this, what your view is. And subject to those views, I'd be happy to have a bit more of a dig into that Property Stock and Agents Act. And, I was looking at the definition of a trust account, I think was what I was looking at, and how you fall into that category of having to get it audited.
Well, maybe they're probably not being followed up because it's not required. I mean, that's an interesting thing, man. First time I've it's good to know.
But you can't go wrong, right? No. Having someone double check.
No, I think it's
what
good
it is
because
you're
that
doing.
means that every single building, whether they're audited or not, and I think we only have a couple that don't get audited, but 99% do. So, but it's good to have that extra oversight as at 30 June. Is everything correct and et cetera? So,
Awesome. How about a win for this week?
So, my win for this week was the fact that I had to be asked to be on a panel a few hours before our REI Strata Sundowner event. Obviously, I'm the deputy chairperson, and Ben Cabello, who was supposed to be on the panel, was unfortunately unwell, so I was asked to be on the panel. And we were talking about the recent reforms in strata. So I just wanted to sort of thank the whole REI team for a really great event. We had a number of representatives there, including Fair Trading. I understand we're also there. And it was a funny sort of comment that was made by the Fair Trading representative, because they were giving out some champagne It was worth more than $60. And then the person apparently said to one of my colleagues that's on our subcommittee, "Oh, you need to declare that." It's like, no, you don't need to declare something that is from a professional body that's just doing a bit of a lucky draw prize,
Oh dear.
But we had the REI New South Wales president, Tom McGlynn. We had Pete Matthews, myself, Kay McHugh, who's doing the Strata Futures Initiative, and David Glover, who's the managing director of OCN. So it was quite a good event, and it was interesting to see all different people from different parts of Strata all coming together, and it was a great event. So so hopefully some more managers may want to join the REI, and it's actually doing a great job in terms of advocating for Strata managers. With the recent reforms, there was a Strata toolkit that was issued.
Nice.
So we could actually share things with our members. It had things high level for managers, but also other tools that we could share with our owners and committee members. So, so just a shout out there for REI, who's doing a great job.
Yeah, excellent. I did see the REI reps also at the Fair Trading Strata Leaders Forum, which was on
28th of July.
Yeah, a couple of weeks ago. So they are definitely doing a lot more in the Strata space and trying to put a bit more focus on their Strata manager members. I have shared a bit of my content with them and chatted to them about some Strata training. So they're definitely getting on the front foot there, which is great, to give our managers as many options as possible to get educated, to do their CPD, to get information, and to network and socialise at events like that Strata Sundowner.
Yeah, and I think something that did come out of it was basically perhaps the different chapters that REI has, which is the property managers and sales, making sure perhaps there's a bit of a Strata update, because a lot of property managers don't really know what common property is. And sometimes we're talking about sales agents saying, "Oh, this is a great building because the levies are low," which really, depending on how much is in the bank, may or may not be a good thing. So I think having that sort of cross-referencing across the different chapters, the buyers agents, the sales, the property managers, it's actually a good way to try and improve the sector as a whole.
Yeah. And when that position of Property and Strata Services Commissioner first came to be a few years ago, and we were all talking about, we thought we were going to get a Strata Commissioner. We want a Strata Commissioner. We want someone dedicated to Strata. And the government spokespeople at the time, including the Strata Commissioner at the time, would say, no, it's important that we approach this as a sector-wide, property sector-wide issue. Strata is not standalone.
No.
It's important that we don't have real estate agents, property managers, strata managers in silos.
Yes.
The work that they do overlaps, and they each need to understand what the other does. And I think I see that now coming through in what Fair Trading and the Property and Strata Commissioner's Office is doing, attending these different events, talking to different property services professionals and getting a real feel for the property sector as a whole. So, I do see a lot of benefits there.
Yeah.
So good on you. I'm glad that they invited you, Reena, to be on the panel to represent. My win for this week comes from one of the clients in my legal practice. I had to step back the other day and think to myself, how many exactly clients do I have at the moment that I'm running damages claims for? And it's a lot, I got to say, for me. It's a lot relative to the other work that I might be doing in my legal practice. I think the majority of if not all, of the NCAT cases I have at the moment are lot owners who are seeking that work be done on the common property that is or has caused them lost rent, temporary accommodation costs, damage to their property. And these complaints, these issues have been dragging out for years, and they have finally reached the stage where they've decided they've got to take action. They have to go to the tribunal and seek orders, and they have to spend money on a lawyer like me to help them do that. And I think I've got about 5 or 6 of them running at the moment. And if I add up the amounts that they're claiming, we're getting close to, if not over $1 million in the total amounts that these owners are claiming. And to recognise that, for me, is disheartening. It is a symptom of a system that has been broken for a long time, I think. And it's very easy to get distracted by those feelings of this is broken, this is wrong, this is not getting any better, and to forget the good work that has been done to build our buildings better, as you say, to better repair our buildings when they're not operating as they should, common property is not functioning as it should, And the work that we're now seeing come through in our reforms to our legislation, fair trading is out there. They are being very loud about these changes, about increased obligations on owners' corporations to properly repair and maintain, that they are about to, their new powers to come in and inspect, to issue compliance notices, to seek undertakings. Those powers are about to start, and you can see everything kind of warming up towards that. So I think there's a lot of good stuff happening that we're going to see the flow through, and perhaps lawyers like me won't have as many of these claims to be running in the future. But that's just a little bit by way of aside. I'm raising this because one of the clients in my legal practice has one of these hundreds of thousands of dollar claims. And this claim comes from the awful situation where there was a burst sewer pipe. And it burst, she's in a villa-style setup. It burst in the courtyard. It flooded her courtyard. It then, and this is sewage, it then went into her kitchen. And it was never dealt with by the owners' corporation. It was cleaned up on a temporary basis, and the owners' corporation or the committee at the time was not responsive to my client's claims to say, hang on, this needs to be properly hygienically dealt with. It needs to be sanitised. The flooring in the kitchen now needs to come up. The kitchen cabinets need to be dealt with. And my client eventually went to the insurer, the owners' corporation's insurer, directly, because the owners' corporation wouldn't do it. And then got the runaround from the insurer for a whole host of reasons that I won't get into. But we're now talking 2 years down the track, and she thankfully got some legal advice, first from somebody else and then came to me. We ended up commencing NCAP proceedings, and just last week she's received, hasn't resolved yet, so I can't give you too many details, but she has received an offer from the insurer, which is close to $300,000.
Oh, geez.
Yep.
Yeah.
And this is the point where insurers, hard to have sympathy for insurers. I know, I'm not going to put that out there on the podcast, but at the end of the day, the insurers are picking up these huge bills because of owners' corporations that have just had their heads in the sand.
But can I ask you, Amanda, because in terms of, obviously this was an insurable event, so otherwise I don't think the insurer would have just been ultimately paying out the claim. But so I think the problem that's happening in many of our buildings is that you've got ageing buildings that for many years have not raised enough levies. This is a systemic thing across, if you look at buildings and how much levies they've been raising, we kept our levies the same, which means you're going backwards. But anyway, that's even seemed to be a thing, never going up. And buildings that have gone up by 5% every year or 3 to 5%, don't have this problem. But these buildings that don't want to raise money, ageing buildings, don't want to spend the money, then you've got new buildings that have defects. So you've got, owners, whether it's old or new, you've got to start putting money into buildings. And I think this was raised, by Paul Morton at one of the conferences that I went to, where owners are investors. They're not consumers. This is the thing. You're an investor. It's an asset. And I think sometimes people don't want to spend the money. And this is a problem that a lot of owners then are forced then to, 2 years. Why should someone have this problem for 2 years? It's really unacceptable that someone has to put up with this type of behaviour in terms of committees not wanting to spend money, not wanting to comply with the law. And unfortunately, it's only going to get worse as time goes on with ageing buildings, Amanda. And I say to people, if you look at how much you got in the capital fund, divided by the number of people, it's $500 each. I mean, I'm sure you'd have more in the bank yourself than that. And also, if something happens in your own life, that wouldn't even pay for 2 flat tyres. I mean, so it's like, I'm not saying that, everyone's swimming in cash, nor should people be, but I'm saying that you've got to look at the building in the same way as you look at your own life in terms of, do we have enough money to pay bills?
Instead of thinking, well, how can we save money here?
Yeah. And how can we, do things in a way that doesn't comply with the law?
Exactly. We'll come full circle.
As we spoke earlier. Go back to the beginning.
Yeah. Look, I hope you're taking the air out of my balloon a little bit here, because I hope, I'm really trying to, I have a reputation for being the positive one, right? I have a reputation for Amanda, you make strata fun. Amanda, you put a smile on my face. Amanda, it doesn't seem to matter what happens, you just keep going. And I do feel like that, but it's hard. It's hard sometimes. And I do feel the compassion fatigue setting in, particularly when I have a couple of handfuls of clients at the moment all going through the same thing. They shouldn't be. Most of them them are women. Some of them are single women.
Yes.
Some of them have divorced and then bought this beautiful looking strata unit thinking this is now going to be my sanctuary.
Yes.
Only in a couple of weeks' time for the roof to start leaking and then to uncover that the vendor hid the reports that said the place was leaking like a sieve.
Yes.
I mean, just heartbreaking. Not able to live there, having to move out with their kids, rent somewhere else, and not realising until they come to somebody like me that they can claim that and should be claiming that money from their owners corporation who also, as I keep saying, put their head in the sand.
But the problem is also that person, Amanda, too, because next year the premium will go up as a result of this claim.
Yep.
That person will be targeted. And like we've got some claims in one of our buildings, 3 claims actually. They were quite significant, not 300,000, but anyway. And the insurance premium's gone up by 48%. And, the people that are responsible are going to be targeted. I've seen it happen a lot where people are blamed.
Yes.
It's all because of this person that now we're paying this extra amount in insurance, rather than saying, well, maybe if you'd did it at the beginning and you didn't have that person didn't have to go to the insurance, then it wouldn't have been such a problem. If there was perhaps quickly dealt with at the time, the cost could have been contained.
Absolutely. Yeah, particularly this example now that is looking like we're about to settle. That is something that should have been cleaned up quickly.
Yeah.
Then the kitchen cabinets wouldn't have ended up in the situation they're in.
Of
the tenant
course.
wouldn't have had to move out.
Yeah.
The contents wouldn't have been damaged to the level that they've been damaged. I mean,
Exactly.
it's all because it's been sitting there and it's been ignored. So yes, I agree. We do have that problem. I am hopeful with the more intense focus. And I think we have to agree on that. There has been a more intense focus on this issue in Strata.
Yes.
The creation of the position of Property and Strata Services Commissioner, the task force that has now been put together by Fair Trading, this new legislation that allows owners, instead of having to go to expensive lawyers, to be able to go to Fair Trading and make a report, make a complaint to Fair Trading about the lack of repair and maintenance and have an investigation in the same way that the building commissioner, the same powers that the building commissioner had, Fair Trading will now have those powers.
And also, Amanda, the extension from 2 years to 6 years for damages.
Yep,
That's
that
another
too.
example of the net being increased in terms of capturing people that perhaps didn't put their claims in that short time frame to reflect other statutory time periods being 6 years for most things in our common law provisions.
Yeah. So I think we're doing what we can do.
Yep.
Whether it's enough or not remains to be seen.
Yep. Sure. Hopefully, I think it's moving in the right direction, Amanda, as you've said.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Reena, for taking the time to sit on the couch with me yet again. We don't meet in person for 9 years, and then we're twice in, what has it been?
2 months.
2 months.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's such a lovely thing.
Go and enjoy the conference tomorrow. I will see you there.
Yeah.
And look forward to bringing some of those highlights perhaps to our next chat. Hey?
Sounds great, Amanda.
Let's do it. See you then.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Your Strata Property, the podcast which consistently delivers to property owners reliable and accurate information about their strata property. You can access all the information below this episode via the show notes at yourstrataproperty.com.au.